Sam, what time is it?
Wow, it's just after 4.
No, it's time for the Chill Spot podcast, Sam.
Yes. Well, just after 4 is time for the Chill Spot podcast.
You're actually really not wrong in that regard.
I mean, just after 3 is technically time for the Chill Spot podcast.
No,
listen, if you want to start an hour later, it's at your leisure. So
you heard it here first, folks. The Chill Spot podcast is moving to 4 o'clock every Tuesday. Sam said so.
Yeah.
It's going in. Nothing to fuck around with.
Yeah.
Fuck you if you think different.
We will have it up. We will have each episode up for exactly an hour, and if you missed it, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's Nintendo rules. You release something for a window of time.
Yes.
And if you miss that window of time,
you lost out, bud.
Fuck right off.
Yeah.
Actually, Nintendo's been doing some shady shit lately.
Oh, like what?
Did you hear about this?
Mm-mm.
You hear about this? You know about this? Sorry. Never mind.
Did I ask me again if I heard about it?
Did you hear about this?
No.
Okay. So Nintendo, as we all know, is a popular video game company, Nintendo.
Yeah.
If you somehow haven't heard of it, they have this game called Super Smash Brothers.
Yes.
We all know Smash Brothers. Well.
Yeah. I'm a little foggy on the concept, but.
I've never. What is that?
Yeah.
Do they fuck? Is it brothers that fuck?
If only I knew 5 to 6 boys who would just sit and play it for hours so I could get it. That would be
not recently
super
though.
Helpful. No.
Anyway,
I know. I miss our boys.
A big competitive scene in the esports games are one of them is Smash Brothers
Melee.
Whatever. But you know of this game.
Yes.
So
that was the first Smash Brothers game I ever played.
Oh, no way, really?
I grew up on Melee.
So a big tournament whose name escapes me was trying to do host it online because obviously they don't want people to gather due to COVID.
Yeah.
Right? So they use this program called Slippy, which is a homemade program that gives Super Smash Brothers Melee a fucking netcode.
Okay.
Which means that you can play online,
okay.
like matchmaking. You can actually find people online to play.
Right.
Now, Nintendo, who is normally supportive of this tournament, it happens yearly, sent them a cease and desist.
Okay.
Because in order for Slippy to work, you need to play with an emulated version of Melee.
Oh, okay.
But that's where it gets foggy, right?
Yeah.
But now here's the bullshit, Sam. It has been proven in court by Nintendo that emulation is legal so long as you own the game.
Okay.
If you back up the game, like for instance, if the ISO which is the file needed for emulation of GameCube games, if the ISO is taken from the disc that you own, it is technically your legal property, and you can emulate it legally. Okay. Nintendo has fought for this in court and have won.
They've fought for people's right to emulate their games?
Well, because Nintendo, okay, so for instance, like the NES Classic?
Yeah.
Or the Super Nintendo Classic?
Yeah.
Those are emulation boxes.
Okay.
They're not running the game's cartridges. They're running ISOs or ROMs, emulated versions of the game.
Yeah.
So Nintendo is being a little hypocritical
right.
when they're releasing their own versions of these emulated games and have proven in court that emulation is legal so long as you own the property, and then turning around and telling this tournament that they can't use emulated versions of this game. But there's a small stipulation.
Okay.
The tournament, in my opinion, this was now in my opinion territory, the tournament needs to prove that they're using legal copies of the game.
See, that's what I was going to say, because you can download an emulator for Super Smash Brothers Melee. Say, okay, I might need to, this is where I was holding up a finger because I have a question. So let's say you buy Super Smash Brothers Melee and then
physically, like the disc.
Yeah, like physical, like you bought a physical copy of it, you own it. And then you make an emulator that's legal. But say you own Super Smash Brothers Melee and say you're someone like me and you don't know how to make an emulator and you download it from another source.
That's illegal.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
So technically the people who are participating in this tournament would have to own a physical copy of Super Smash Brothers Melee
and then not distribute it to anyone.
Make their own emulators.
Well, no, not that. No. They don't need to make emulators are just programs. You don't have to. So an emulator plays game files.
Yeah.
So they don't need to make your own emulator. You just need to get your own ISO, which is the file type.
Okay.
It's like, how there's PNG, JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
An ISO is a file type for GameCube games.
Okay.
An ROM is a file type for Game Boy Color games, Game Boy Advance games.
But how would you, if you owned a physical copy of Melee, how would you go about creating an ISO for yourself so that you could participate in this tournament?
That I do not know, but apparently it's a far more straightforward progress than we ever give it credit for.
Because let's say you don't know how to make that, but you have a physical copy of this game, So it's then illegal to like go to somebody who does know how to make an ISO and like download it from them.
You can't go to like Emu Paradise and download an ISO of Melee because that's illegal.
Even if you own a physical copy.
It's ethically like it's morally correct.
Yeah. Like I would think so.
If I own Melee and I download an ISO of Melee to play emulated, but I own a physical copy, in the gaming community, that's considered ethically correct.
Yeah.
I'm not stealing anything.
Yeah.
I'm technically just playing a game that I own.
Exactly.
In the legal eyes of Nintendo, downloading an ISO or an ROM off a website, even if you own the game, is technically considered stealing.
Still stealing, yeah.
Because you can distribute it.
Right.
Theoretically speaking. That's what Emu Paradise does.
And from a business standpoint, I understand that.
So yeah.
But it's like, guys, like, I already gave you my money.
Oh, so, okay, so here's my 2 cents.
And I could just not do that. Like, I could just not take that extra step.
Yeah.
And like, just get an emulator.
Well, that's just, so here's the thing, but... What Nintendo, in my opinion, is failing to see is that, like, this game is 16 years old. You're not making money off it anymore.
Exactly.
Like, you're not making money off this anymore.
The console that it's on is discontinued.
Melee is probably one of the most passionate esports groups in the fucking esports community.
People love Melee.
Matter of fact, sickeningly so. There's people out there who'd say, like, Melee is fucking annoying. From Nintendo's point of view, their legality is sound. They own Melee. It's their property. It's their Nintendo properties. They have a right to distribute or not distribute their property legally, right? So I can't fault them for being like, hey, so we know that in order to run this tournament, you're going to have to use emulated versions of Melee.
Yeah.
That is illegal. We can't condone that, right? From a legal standpoint.
Yeah.
Now, the tournament's point of view is like, well, what if we're using legally backed up ISOs from physical discs that we own?
Yeah.
And apparently there was a behind the scenes conversation between those who run the tournament and then those at Nintendo, and that conversation ended with Nintendo sending a cease and desist. So clearly there was some sort of disagreement, some sort of like not seeing of eye to eye that happened, right? Okay.
Well, I mean, it's Nintendo. They're not exactly the most rational
human beings
when it comes to their property.
And there's another thing they've been doing that I'll get into in a minute. But yeah, so they basically said, like, no, you can't run your tournament if it's going to be online. Like, you can't use emulated versions. Like, you can't prove that you didn't steal this, which is the issue. And from a legal standpoint, I actually can't really fault Nintendo for that.
No, but it's like don't be a bummer, man.
From a moral standpoint,
don't be such a fucking bummer, dude.
I think that Nintendo could lighten up a little bit.
Yeah,
you're not making money off this game. Yeah, you have a passionate group of people who fucking love it.
If it was Ultimate, I'd be a little bit more sympathetic because it's so new. But like, it's Melee, dude. It's a retro game.
If you're this butthurt over people playing your game competitively and keeping this game alive, port it to the Switch. Port it to the Switch, charge $70 for it.
Hey.
People would buy that forever.
Yeah, 100%.
But they're not going to do that because that's going to edge on Ultimate's market share.
Yeah, of course. It's way too soon after.
In my humble opinion, Ultimate's a better game. And I'm not a competitive Melee player.
Well, it's just like
I would get skinned alive for saying what I just said.
It has the I mean, it just exists with newer technology, you know? Like, they have things that they didn't have when they were making Melee in order to make it a better game. And they have all of the, you know, like, all of the love and all of the criticism that Melee received. Was Melee the last Smash Brothers game that came out?
What? No, Ultimate is.
No. Like, before Ultimate, was Melee the last?
No, it was Brawl and then Wii U and 3DS.
So they have all of these Smash Brothers games. But I mean, Melee, of course, is like probably one of the most beloved, if not the most.
Melee is the most competitive.
Okay.
I mean, basically, as far as a fighting game goes, Melee is the most mechanically deep in terms of like playing it.
Right.
There's lots of avenues for strategy, and the game is quite buggy, and the esports community has taken advantage of the bugs and glitches and actually applied them to competitive strategy.
Okay.
So Melee is amazing to watch because it's so fast.
Okay.
It's like one of the fastest fighting games you can play. And then because of its history, and because it was one of really like the first esports fighting games to really take off besides like Street Fighter 3.
Yeah.
It's just so beloved, you know? It blew up streaming. It made people want to watch fighting games online, right? So Melee is like a cornerstone of esports.
Right.
And Nintendo's official opinion, they would probably much rather play Ultimate because it's the newest one.
Yeah.
It's no different from Capcom being like, are these fucking assholes still playing Street Fighter 3? Street Fighter 5 is out. play Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
But that's not how esports communities work.
No.
You know, they want to play the game they want to play.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, I think this is just negative PR for Nintendo, and I really don't know what they're doing. I seriously think that they could just let this fly. Because, like, come on.
No, like, shitting on tournaments that hype up excitement for a game that you made, like, 15 years ago can only be a good thing.
It's free real estate. It's free real estate, man.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we love this game so much, we want to continue playing it.
Exactly.
Now, another thing Nintendo's been doing, which is like, I mean, this is clear-cut Nintendo, though. Mm-hmm. A new Nintendo game came out today. Mm-hmm. It's called Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
Yeah.
It's called, this kind of game is called a Warriors game or a Musou game. Mm-hmm. What you might recognize is like you fight hordes of dudes with a sword and it's like big hack and slash. Yeah. There's a million Warriors games. There's like Fire Emblem Warriors, there's Hyrule Warriors, fucking Pokemon Warriors, fucking Nancy Drew Warriors. Like there's
there's not Nancy
There's tons of Warriors. The point is that there's tons of Warriors games.
Yeah.
In my opinion, while fun, they are incredibly dull. Okay. They're very repetitive.
Like, when you say dull, because you said fun but incredibly dull, do you mean like the fun runs out really quickly? Like you play one round and you're like, that was fun. I can put this down now.
What you do in hour 1 is what you'll be doing in hour 30.
Okay.
It kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that appeals to people. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't appeal to me.
I mean, I would argue that like Street Fighter is kind of like that.
A little bit, right? A little bit, yeah.
Honestly, Super Smash Brothers is like that. Like
you're right about that
and
too.
And it can be different based on like who you're playing with and how you play.
Yeah.
You know, like if I play Super Smash Brothers with you, it'll be different than if I play Super Smash Brothers with like Brad.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's the same. I mean, like that's why I don't like Smash Brothers a whole lot because it's like, okay, so a bunch of video game characters come together and like mishmash each other and then someone comes out on top. Okay, do it again. Do it again, do it again, do it again. Yeah, you can run a tournament. Of course.
Right.
But like it's the same thing.
Well, the variety comes in the difference in who you're fighting, like you just said.
I guess, yeah.
You know, like different people have different strategies.
But
like,
I would assume it's the same
characters.
for like these Warriors games then in that
well,
respect.
the thing is, Warriors it's a single player game.
Okay.
So there's no verses or anything.
Okay.
We're getting off track.
You can't play like 2-player?
No.
Oh, well, that's dumb.
At least I don't think. I don't know. Hyrule Warriors 1 you could. I don't know about the second one.
It's a fighting game. Why wouldn't you?
It's not a fighting game. It's a hack and slash game.
Okay.
We're getting off track. Nintendo has been
we were still talking about fighting games.
Nintendo has been issuing DMCA takedowns because of the soundtracks being streamed on Twitch from these games.
Okay. Like they're doing to everything else on Twitch right now.
More or less.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I really don't know what Twitch is doing. Like, are you trying to gut your fucking entire user base?
It sounds like they're at the mercy of the artists, right?
More or less.
Like the or not necessarily the artists, but the companies that own the masters to these songs want their payday to come out. So like that's sort of like biting him in the butt, and then they're like, okay, well, we host, like we're the creators of all of this, so we've got to crack down on our users who are streaming. It sounds like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Not that I'm sympathizing with them because I think that they're reacting kind of harshly.
I agree, yeah.
You know, like shutting down somebody because you can hear the fucking Ocarina of Time soundtrack in the background is like, it's Ocarina of Time. Like, what the fuck is the matter with you?
Well, now what some developers are doing, like CD Projekt Red, they're coming out with Cyberpunk 2077 next month.
Are they?
They actually are.
Is it happening?
Apparently, this is the final release date.
Are we sure?
Yeah, I know.
Are we positive?
Crazy about that. But first things first, they're releasing along with Cyberpunk 2077 something called Streamer Safe Mode, which replaces all of the licensed music with non-licensed music that they made.
I mean, like, thank you. It shouldn't have to happen, though.
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous.
But I appreciate that.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think, I think CD Projekt Red needs some good PR. So I'm pretty sure that this was an effort to be like, please play our fucking game.
Yeah.
We've been working for 7 goddamn years and had to delay it 9 times.
Yeah.
Like, please play our fucking game.
Yeah.
And it looks great. I'm excited for it. You know what I was thinking about the other day?
What's that?
I don't know. I mean, we mentioned this in the podcast, but I'm no longer working at my job that I used to work at, which was a video game store. Could you fucking imagine getting all of the marketing for Cyberpunk 2077? It says November 28th.
Yeah.
This is when it's going to come out.
Yeah.
November 28th. You have giant posters, November 28th. You have game cases that say November 28th.
Yeah.
And then it gets delayed again. What are you going to do with all this marketing?
take it home.
Throw
I
it in the
guess.
trash?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like I don't know video games that well, but I feel like maybe you could hawk it to be like, this is from the famous like delay of 2020.
The famous CD Projekt Red
It's got the original delay date on the bottom of this like
it's a collector's
cardboard
item.
cutout of like the main character or something like that. But other than that, yeah, you throw it in the trash.
Mm-hmm.
You just put it in the stinking garbage because there's no use for it. You can't put it out. It's not going to apply to anything. What are you going to do? Like correct it in Sharpie? No.
Yeah, maybe. At that point, got like a yellow Sharpie and just
I would like to just to save materials. I would do that. I know that like looks cheap, but I think we have to get over that as a society. Like,
well, especially in COVID times where it's like, what are you going to do? By the time they reprint new marketing materials, the game's going to be out.
Also, like consider the fact that you have to like all the resources it takes to like ship it out all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like forget about materials for a second. You have to like pay people to take it to where you want to go, and then like pay the stores to put it up in the stores. All this new marketing material that you have, like
I just sincerely
just don't.
I want to fucking reach out and say, like, I sincerely feel bad for anyone who's working at GameStore who's no doubt had to deal with people coming in like, could I buy Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah.
And then be like, no, I'm sorry, it got delayed. But, and they point at the thing that says the wrong date.
And you're like,
and they get into a fucking argument.
I know.
And then they reveal that they're a Trump supporter and sneeze on you or something.
Oh, God.
Because that's the world we live in.
Yeah, that is the world that we live in right now. It's fucking horrendous.
But you know what that reminds me of? Since we're talking about GameStore. In my store, months ago, we got like a 4-pack collector toy of the Stranger Things kids.
Okay.
Of like all of them in their Ghostbusters outfit.
Oh, cute.
Except the one that we got was a defect.
Oh, no.
And the one, so you know how there's Will, Mike, Dylan, and Caleb's character. What is that? What's his character's name?
Luke. Luke is. I think it's.
I think Luke is right. Lucas. It is Lucas.
Yeah, it's Lucas.
So yeah, Dylan, Lucas,
Will, and Mike.
Is his name? Is like I thought? Isn't Dylan the name of the actor?
No, that's Gaten Matarazzo.
We're losing
Dustin, not Dylan.
Dustin, Luke, Mike, and Will.
Yeah.
However, there were 2 Mikes.
No.
There was a Mike head on a Lucas body.
Yeah.
So it was like, I was looking at it and I was like,
oh, wait.
What's going on here?
They fucked up the black character. Oh, what the fuck?
So I was looking at the box and I was like, something's off here.
No.
Like, where's Lucas? And then I found out that they put a Will head on a Lucas body.
Oh,
so like,
dude.
Mike looked fine, Will looked fine, Dustin looked fine, and then there was a black kid body with a white ass toe head fucking Lucas head. Hilarious.
I feel like those defects sell for almost more than the originals.
We never moved it.
No, of course not.
No one ever wanted to buy it.
No, like you don't want to buy it from a store, but like I don't know, maybe I would buy it from a store and like sell it as a defect because that's rare.
I mean that's what I would have done.
Most companies catch on to that really quickly, so only like sometimes less than 10 of like a defect version comes out, and it actually goes for more.
Totally.
Like that happens in toy collecting.
Well, it's insane, right? Because in my opinion, it was $100, which is a lot of money for 4 toys.
Yeah.
But I think you could easily buy that and flip it for 3 times that, for sure.
I think so,
yeah. $300 defect collector's item.
Yeah, it's a thing. Mm-hmm. It's a thing.
There was an amiibo, I remember when the amiibos were huge, of Samus. There was a defect where they printed her with 2 cannon arms.
Okay.
Because, Samus has the one arm that's a gun.
Yeah.
They printed one of her with 2 cannon arms. Someone bought it and flipped it for $250.
Wow.
Amiibos sell for like $15.
Yeah, they're like they're not cheap, but like
not cheap anymore. They're like $20 now.
Yeah.
Well, they're also they're $20, but they're also have increased in quality. Mm-hmm. The builds of those amiibos are actually really nice now.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty.
Yeah.
Like I have a couple of amiibos upstairs that are like I like looking at. I'm like, oh, look at the detail.
Yeah.
Like, it's good little figures.
For sure. I have a little bit of game news that I learned the other day. So
Sam Gamer Corner.
You know all about my favorite games, the Nancy Drew games made by Her Interactive.
Wait, you love Nancy Drew?
I do.
What?
I
love Nancy Drew.
Get out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you never told me.
Do you want to do a whole Let's Play series of Nancy Drew?
Yeah. There's this one game called Secret of Shadow Ranch. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I haven't.
Oh man, you're gonna you wait.
It's almost like if you go to playlists on our YouTube channel, you can watch us play the whole thing.
Wait, we did that already?
What are you talking about?
We did that already? The Nancy Drew playlist?
Do you smell gas? We fucking pass out.
It's a fucking fever dream.
Anyway.
So Nancy Drew games made by Her Interactive. They famously had a horrible game come out. It was the most recent game called Midnight in Salem.
Yeah, Town of Salem.
It got delayed like a million fucking times, and there was a bunch of, every time there was another delay, there was a bunch of secrecy. Her Interactive would just say it's delayed again and basically give their fans nothing, and it pissed off their entire fan base, which is made up of people who've been playing these games for
ages,
literal decades.
There's actually there's no more little girls that play these games.
No,
it's
like
just grown women.
The first game came out in like 1998, 1999. Like, people have been playing these games for 2 decades at this point, and like the last game just took for fucking ever to come out and pissed everybody off. So I learned through a Tumblr post,
ooh, very reputable,
of all things, that apparently Her Interactive had even less to do with the making of this game than what we even gave them credit for in the first place.
Who'd they pawn it off on?
Some Austrian game development company, like overseas.
Amazing.
Which is also a huge stab in the back, because like the thing about Her Interactive is
it's all in-house.
It's all in-house. Like, it's like made in America. They don't outsource their labor. At least they didn't before Penny Bitch Milliken took over.
Is that the new CEO?
The new CEO that nobody fucking likes.
Stephen Moffat all over again, dude.
Even worse than Stephen Moffat, honestly, because it's just such a fucking disaster. So how the way that somebody broke it down is that like Her Interactive, the American-based company who makes these games, like retained the rights. So what they do, and like this is not a great business practice, is that a company called Simon & Schuster owns the IP for Nancy Drew.
It's a publishing company.
Every single time Her Interactive wanted to make another Nancy Drew game, they had to buy the rights to Nancy Drew over and over and over and over again.
Who signed that contract? What the fuck?
Oh man, I don't know. They got a lot of games out of this for what it's worth. I mean, they made like 30 games this way.
Right,
just
but
like rebuying the rights over and over and over again. So they retained the rights to Simon & Schuster to like have the game made, but all of the design, the direction, the writing, and the game engineering was made overseas by an Austrian development company.
Some Austrian developer.
Yeah. So they had even less to do with making this game than what we thought. You know, like when the game came out and we were all like, what the hell did you do? Like, it's made in a new engine for sure, but like, oh man, one of the characters in the game has twists. Like, she's a black woman and she's got like twists in her hair.
You showed me this, yeah.
And like the background is just like clipping in and out of her twists all the time. Like, it's awful. It looks like she's standing in front of a bad green screen. It's terrible.
No, it looks like they made this game in 5 minutes.
Oh my god, it's a disaster. It's like, so fucking ugly.
You ever heard of Dreams? The game Dreams?
No.
Dreams is a game development game that was released by the people who made Little Big Planet. Okay. And like, it's a full game dev suite.
Yeah.
You can make like first-person shooters or racing games. Like, it's really robust and really, really cool.
Okay.
I've seen games made in Dreams that look better than Midnight in Salem.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, no, this game is rough. And it's because like the people who've been making these games for 20 years had basically nothing to do with it. And that it also explains why or how this game came out when Her Interactive laid off like 30% of the people working for them.
Well, there was some fuck shit going on at Her Interactive.
Yeah, no, they were just like laying off, and like Her Interactive was like the one dev company where like you would make a game and then keep your job. Like, I remember reading an article written by one of the former writers who got out before all of this stuff went down, like years before all this stuff went down. And like when she was interviewing for the company, they were like, hey, so we're a little bit concerned because you've bounced around from dev to dev company a lot. But people who work here usually stay, like they just stay.
Right.
They stay for at least a couple of years.
They've had in-house developers for decades.
Yeah. And like would you like why did you move around so much? And she's like, are you familiar with dev culture at all? Like,
right, yeah.
I didn't move on purpose.
Most people lose their jobs in game development as soon as the game ships.
Yeah, and she was writing about how like refreshing that was. So people who got let go from Her Interactive when they were making all of these cuts, like they basically had to like go back into the slipstream of dev culture and like move around from gig to gig, and
they
like,
haven't worked with their families all the outside of these games for almost 30 years.
Well, I wouldn't say 30 years, not all of them, But some of them were there for, like even staying somewhere for like 2-3 years when you're an engineer or a writer or something like that for games. Like that's you're out of practice. You're out of the rat race.
Well, you know what these poor developers who left Her Interactive now need to do? Form their own game dev studio, start a Kickstarter, and make a spiritual successor to Nancy Drew with a unique IP that they create. That is quite literally just a point-and-click adventure game with quirky voice acting and puzzles. Like, it's literally the exact same. And just kickstart that.
Just get the band back together again.
You have no idea how, in my opinion, how well that would do.
I would love that. If it kept, like, the spirit of the original game. Because that was the thing. I haven't finished Midnight in Salem.
Because you can't.
Well, yeah, because my Mac
every time you play.
hates it. My Mac hates it.
Your poor fan is like...
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't like how this is going.
No.
But what I have played of it, it's not good.
Well, you said that even the core fundamental Nancy Drew stuff isn't good.
Yeah, like the puzzles aren't fun, and like, they're doing this thing. I hated when they did this with Ghost of Thornton Hall, where they make a scary game for the purpose of making a scary game, and like there's not much else to it. And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's not that great. I should just watch the dubs, play the VOD version of it, just so I can like see it all the way through. But yeah, it just, like, it didn't have that, like, the writing wasn't there, like, the characters weren't, like, serious but quirky but, like, believable as actual human beings, and...
It lacked consistency.
Yeah, it just, like, the love wasn't there, and it's because you outsourced it to, like, Austria.
Well, they also fucked over all of the developers by being like, okay, I know you've been coding in this one program language forever, but we're going to move to Unity because it's cheaper.
No, I don't think it's cheaper.
Unity?
Is Unity cheaper?
Yeah.
Unity, whatever they were using before?
Unity as far, I don't know for sure, like I'm going to be honest with you, but from what I understand and based on what I read online, Unity is a far more easy to use game dev platform, which is considered more consumer level and cheaper to use. Yeah. A lot of indie game developers use Unity because it's cheap to buy. Okay. And in comparison to some game dev languages. Yeah. And then as far as like making a game goes, it's a lot of like put this here and like load this in and like for instance, I could download Unity and like make a game. Right. I mean, it'd be fucking terrible, but like I could do that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Unity is free actually. I think it might be free.
I don't know about that. But
that's a hard maybe in it being free.
When it was announced that Her Interactive would be switching over to Unity as the engine they use to make their games, it was supposed to be like it's going to make the world like so much more immersive. Yeah. And we'll do things like you have to flip things over and around and completely it's completely 3D and you'll have to like examine objects like all over, whereas like before in the Nancy Drew games it's like you pick an object up and then like if you can look at something, like if you can look on the back of something, like it just kind of flips over. Like it's sort of like a flip book, like a flip picture book. Yeah. Where it just kind of happens. Whereas like now it's more like interactive and 3D and smooth and it goes over well. But that's just I don't know. It just lost something when it lost that whole like paper doll movement to thing.
Well, that's
that
classic,
Nancy
right?
does.
Well, here's the thing, right?
Maybe I'm just an old head, but
if I could be honest with you, I think updating to a newer engine makes sense. The fact that they were coding in this game language that's like 15 years old.
But knowing that they outsourced it to a company that is overseas and hasn't had anything to do with these games.
That's a stab in the back.
Over the like 2-decade-long run that it's been building a fan base, I just think shot itself in the foot a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that's a genuine stab in the back. Yeah. Like, honestly, I just seriously think that's bad PR.
Yeah.
Like, you have
I'm like hardly even mad at Her Interactive. I am for them for outsourcing, but it's like you can't even blame them for how shitty this game is because it was made by people who don't get it.
Well, you could blame them because they made that executive decision. Yeah. They made the decision to outsource and they made that decision to not do what they're good at, which is make in-house games, in-house development. I think the move to Unity makes sense because I think that Nancy Drew, like as much as we love it, could use a facelift. Mm-hmm. It could be a bit more technically impressive. Yeah. The menus could work a little bit better. Yeah. The UI could work a little bit better.
But honestly, they were kind of heading in that direction with Sea of Darkness. Like we haven't seen it yet. I want you to earn Sea of Darkness.
Okay, sure.
I want you to play a couple more games. Like some of the classic older games that everybody loves, and then like some of the newer games that maybe aren't as entirely beloved, but you can like see the growth. And then I want to show you Sea of Darkness because when that game came out, we were like, holy shit, this is beautiful.
This is the future of Nancy Drew.
Like, the movement is still the same, but like just the art and the design of the environments was absolutely gorgeous.
Like stellar. Even.
Yeah. And I was like, we all saw it and we were like, this is great. Like, this is the kind of growth that we wanted to see. This is the detailed environments and the character development and the writing that we wanted to see as the fan base grows older. And then Penny Milliken came in and was just like made like armpit farts. Sorry, I hit the mic. Just made like armpit farts all over the place. It
just sounds like there was a major disconnect between what the company wanted and what the fans wanted.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, okay, I'm going to pitch this to you, all right? As someone who loves video games and as someone who loves Nancy Drew games, how would you feel about the evolution of Nancy Drew games becoming like still from the first person perspective, because you play from Nancy's perspective, but you move around a 3D world like you might do a shooter or something. With like WASD.
That's what I think that's kind of what we wanted to get with the Unity Switch.
Right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like instead of being like, okay, I'm going to click the door, then I'm going to click the bookshelf, then I'm going to click the click, and I'm going to click.
Yeah.
You can move with the arrow keys or WASD, and you walk into a building, and then you have full 3D camera movement to be like, instead of being like finding stuff that highlights, you get to be like, I'm going to look at this bookshelf and read the spine of every book, and then find the book that I need to find. And that's a discovery that you made as a player.
Yeah.
As opposed to being, and there's nothing wrong with this alternative that they have, which is like hovering with a mouse and then like, ooh, I can click this, and you click it because the information you find is interesting. That's why that works, right? But I think that making Nancy Drew more organic and more 3D and a bit more open worldy, so you can have more opportunity as a player to make your own discoveries, would benefit that series greatly.
That was one of the things they promised with the Unity switchover, was that it would be more open worldy. And you could look around a lot more, and it wouldn't be so confined like the old Nancy Drew games were.
That'd be dope. There's games that do that really well.
There was a little bit of that, from what I've played, but it was just corny.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it was just fucking corny. And it clearly wasn't very well thought out. It's like they gave it to us because they wanted to finish the game, and that's it.
Well, I feel like
it was very slapped together.
If I had to take a guess, they probably ran out of money. That's how usually this happens.
Well, they couldn't, and the fans were fed up. Like, how many more times could you delay this game? And especially with what little information they were giving us, like, you can't keep treating your fan base like that, because you really piss a lot of people off. I mean, like, a lot of people bought it because they were so, in love with Her Interactive and like genuinely wanted to see how this game was going to play out, because the game has never been delayed like this before. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't buy the game, if they lost customers because of all of the delays.
Well, I mean, I remember when you sent me the trailer and you were like, you gotta see this.
Yeah.
And I watched it and I was like, yeesh.
Yeah.
Even this trailer is rough.
Yeah.
Like, I understand how like they're trying to go for that classic sort of cheesy Nancy Drew, like, what's gonna happen? You know, like very like old school stuff. That works when your game looks complete.
Yeah.
Watching these 3D models basically slide across untextured grass is like, ouch.
Oh my God.
Like, this is ouch.
Oh my God. I gotta show you what happens with like Deirdre, because characters follow you around sometimes.
Okay.
Like,
you'll
be like, let's go to town together.
Yeah.
And then like you're walking around and then like the character is just like behind you. But sometimes when you turn around, like the character is like above you.
No
but it's
way.
like really, really top-lit, so they look super fucking scary. Yeah. And their eyes are all like wide. They look like they're looking down on you, like they're about to like fucking kill you, Psycho style. And it's just like Deirdre is this like teenage girl, but sometimes she'll just like look down on you like menacingly, but she's just like behind you waiting to like do the next thing.
What do you see, Nancy?
Do you want to go to the coffee shop? And her eyes are like super wide and like her nostrils are flaring because it looks like she's looking directly down at you, like just menacingly.
I want to peel your skin off, Nancy.
Yeah, exactly.
Ew.
Like, oh, guys.
I hate that.
This is not good. I hate this. This is awful.
That's a shame though. But you know, here's hoping, like, I'll be honest with you, on YouTube, I've been seeing a lot of Nancy Drew Midnight in Salem ads. It features like the voice actor.
They're really rolling it out because they really want people to buy the game.
Well, if they can turn a profit, they'll make another one, and maybe the next one will be better. Maybe they get a better handle on Unity. Maybe they have a better concept.
Maybe they'll fire their CEO because everybody hates her.
Well, okay.
Everybody hates her. She sucks.
I'm not trying to defend this woman because I know very little about her. You know more about this situation than I do. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to a video game.
I just can't believe she walked in. It just feels like, and because there was so little information, it feels like it was Penny Milliken's decision to not talk to the fans so much, because there was actually quite a bit of fan interaction with her interactive.
Lots of communication.
Customer support was really good. They had an intern.
It was interactive.
It was her interactive. Yeah, they put the interactive in there. They had little Jackalope, who was like an intern who would do like playthroughs and like run their social media accounts. You could interact with her a whole bunch, and she had her own distinct personality that was really fun. And like fucking they had really fun like contests, you know, like they still do this to generate user interaction on social media, because it's all they have now.
If you're not on social media as a company, what are you fucking doing?
But before, when it was a desperate fucking ploy, they had costume contests, cookie making contests every Christmas, pumpkin carving contests every Halloween.
So solid social media interaction.
You could send in photos of you for a chance to have them actually entered in the game. Like when we played Labyrinth of Lies, and there was that picture of that person dressed up like Sunny, and there was a person dressed like Charlotte on like the desk in Mina's office.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah.
Those were like submitted by fans, you know?
So cool.
And sometimes there were like really cute tributes. I think in Tomb of the Lost Queen or something like that, there was a tribute to a fan who had passed away of like diabetes or like kidney disease or something like that.
That's
and,
a
shame. She was a huge fan, so they honored her in like the newest game at the time. And like stuff like that. Like they really loved their fans and like reaching out and stuff like that. And then I don't know if it was Penny Milliken's fault, but it really coincided with her entering into the company, where communication with the fan base just chopped off completely. I feel like I got ghosted by an entire company.
Yeah,
It's essentially what happened.
Right.
I feel like I was left on red for like 3 fucking years, when we're used to getting 2 games a year out of this company.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it's like we were willing to be patient while they, you know, got used to working a new engine, but then the layoffs started happening and communication died out. And games got delayed over and over and over again with seemingly no reason. And then the game finally came out and it wasn't very good, but they're still... And then they would send out all of these emails that were like, Midnight in Salem is the perfect game to play on Halloween. But it didn't look super professional. Like it looked like an email like that someone typed out.
Yeah.
And then like CC'd everybody on their fucking mailing list.
Sure, yeah.
And just sent it. They
There's
were
no
like,
art.
By Midnight in Salem is perfect for Halloween, and it was just like text.
There's not like a header or a footer. It's just
No.
like there's like barely a Steam link.
No, I'm like, guys, like I know you're not doing super well, but like you can afford a MailChimp account. Like, goddamn, this is rough.
Well, see, what I don't get about okay, it's really funny. I think I mentioned this to you many moons ago in a podcast. What you're describing is day-to-day in game development. Like, there are so many games that either don't make it to shipping or get canceled or get delayed to filth and then end up in dev hell and then never make it.
Or they just wrap up their final project to wrap it up before they like fade away.
Or they're like, okay, well, we are quite literally on the edge of losing all of our money, so here's the game.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's shit.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but I feel like the Her Interactive, the Nancy Drew folks, typically speaking, when I talk to someone who really, really, really likes Nancy Drew, it's the game that they're into.
Yeah.
And I've met, like, we know people who play Nancy Drew who play other video games.
Yeah.
But all the people I know, besides like a select few, like in terms of video games they play, like this series is really the only one they enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you guys are experiencing your first ever like dev drama.
Yeah.
And it's heavy.
Yeah.
And I will admit, as far as dev drama goes, this is a juicier dev drama.
Yeah.
Like most of the time it just gets really disappointing. This is actually like fun to follow.
It's very disappointing.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think you guys are going through it for the first time, and you'll be okay. Trust me.
You're just like,
you'll be okay.
Don't worry about it, sport.
Yeah, you'll be fine, champ.
Welcome to the big leagues, there, champ. Let me tell you a little something about Cyberpunk. Let me tell you about goddamn. I don't know what else has been delayed a bunch. Was a Halo game ever very delayed, or like COD?
The newest one, Halo Infinite, was supposed to be released already, but they delayed it till next year.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be a launch title for the Series X, but that got delayed.
No, that's the thing. The first delay announcement came and we were like, okay.
Games get delayed. It happens.
Games get delayed. It happens. But then delays happened, I think, 2 or 3 more times. And it was just lack of communication. You know, like most of the time it's like, there's an issue with the union, or there's no union. That's bullshit. Like there was an issue with the staff, like they're upset over how they're being treated. We're being treated poorly, so they're like walking out or not doing
unfortunately.
Well. So like that's happening, or there's delays. There's like equipment issues. There's storyboarding issues. There's design issues.
There's a plethora of issues.
Like our entire building got shut down. Like we lost power for like 3 days. We're behind. Stuff like that. Communication happens. We don't know why Midnight in Salem got so delayed. Like we don't know. There's just no reasoning behind it. All we have is what we can infer.
Well,
clearly, and it's like trickling out. I heard about this Austria thing yesterday.
So new development.
The game's been out for like 2 years. Like
wow.
Well, a year. Yeah, because I remember I bought this game and I was playing it when I was in the apartment, like subletting the apartment. So this game's been out for a full year and we still don't know what
actually not even a
went
full
on
year.
There. Yeah,
because you did that earlier this year.
It's been out for a year. It came out around Halloween.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So what the fuck? Like,
well, what kills me too?
Why so secretive?
Is that like game development has changed so much? Because like not normally, but I think many years ago when a game got developed and it got shipped, well, there it is. That's the game. So you can stop working on it. Mm-hmm. But due to that, we live in the age of the internet. So many games continue their development well after the release date. Mm-hmm. With updates and bug fixes and DLC and expansion packs and patches and shit, right? So where I think that Her Interactive probably should be focusing their efforts on isn't necessarily making a new Nancy Drew game, but now that you got the profit, I hope, from Midnight in Salem, use that money to fix it. Because as we learned with Among Us, your game might blow up 2 years later.
Hire little Jackalope back. I miss her.
Yeah. I don't know what Her Interactive's whole bag is, but
I used to.
I think they just need to figure. They're in a bit of an identity crisis at the moment.
Yeah, for no reason, because they had a clear identity cut out. It's all Penny's fault.
Well, it's easy to pin it on one person, but
and I will continue to do so until otherwise is communicated to me. Mm-hmm. So,
but it is also worth saying that you and I, like, I'm a game enthusiast, and you appreciate listening to me talk about games. I guess
I'm a budding game enthusiast. I would like to think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you have a vested interest in video games. So
sure.
At the end of the day, though, we don't really know how game development works technically.
No,
from a technical standpoint.
No,
and I'll say that flat out.
Yeah.
I could tell anyone what I think Pokemon should be, but I'm sure there's a bunch of, like, if I was talking to a Game Freak dev,
actually take those ideas to Game Freak and be like, we should do this, we'll be like, you can't do this, and this is exactly why we can't just do this.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a ton of shit that they'll turn around to me and be like,
you don't think we thought of that?
That's literally impossible with what's available to us.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I like to dream big, and I am aware of that. Mm-hmm. But I was actually reading a story a couple of months ago now, years ago now. Rockstar Games recently, in the last couple of years, came into a lot of fire for the development of Red Dead Redemption 2, which was like this huge, high-profile game.
Yeah,
and
lots of overtime.
It was lots of crunch.
Go and losing their jobs after the game was done.
I was reading
usual bullshit.
The head developer of RDR2. Around halfway through development, they had finished most of the cutscenes, decided that they want all of the cutscenes to be in widescreen.
Oh.
So how like black
full
bar,
screen
black
and
bar.
widescreen, yeah.
Off the top of my head, I was like, well, that probably shouldn't be too hard, right? That's impossible. They essentially had to redo all of the cutscenes from scratch. Because they would have to reposition the camera and like move the models and like change the lighting and like add the black bars.
Yeah.
Like apparently it was just like small insignificant stuff that you think. Let me finish. So small insignificant stuff that you think that wouldn't completely rock the boat absolutely sinks the boat. As a matter of fact.
Like if you add the black bars, then you have to reconfigure all of the ratios of the entire screen. You would have to redo it.
Of course.
Because it has to fit still. It can't look squished. It can't be cut off. Mm-hmm. And when something is made for full screen mode, like it's different measurements.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm getting at is like there's so many things from like a video game fan standpoint where you think like, well, why can't they just do this? Or like, why can't, or like this shouldn't be this big of a deal. When in fact that game development is so fucking tedious and so complicated. Yeah. And there's so many moving parts. And if one part doesn't work, it's a cascade effect that fucks your entire game.
It just goes to show you, like, the phrase "why don't you just" is the worst phrase, like the worst string of words in the English language.
Most people who start off a sentence with "why don't you just" are about to say some fuck shit.
They're about to say some stuff that they couldn't do if they were in that person's position.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's awful because people who say "why don't you just" think that they're actually offering solutions to a problem. So it comes from a good place, but it's just so ignorant to how everybody's job works. You don't do this job.
Yeah.
And that's this. It's fitting for everything. It's fitting for the grocery store clerk that you're. Why don't you just bag and scan as you go? Well, that takes more time, motherfucker. You think it's actually more convenient, but it's not. Why don't you just squish everything and add the black bars on top? It doesn't work like that. It simply doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And when people who don't do the jobs tell the people who do the jobs, why don't you just? It's like a slap in the face, because, like, you don't know what I do or how my job works, and if you did do it at one point, you haven't done it in a really long time, and things have changed.
Totally.
And you just don't know. So why don't you just?
Yeah. Why don't you just make Pokemon?
Why don't you just?
Yeah.
Huh? I will give you the chair and you go ahead, and I'll give you 2 years and see what the heck you come up with, guy.
Well, I'm a big proponent, especially when it comes to games, of dealing with what you got, right?
Yeah.
Famously, Pokemon Sword and Shield came out, and it was very polarizing, despite being the best-selling Pokemon game ever now. I digress. Let's not get into that. Let me finish. But, like, I think that people really need to give Game Freak a break, because no one knows how they do their job. And I saw a ton of people online being like, well, if they spend 10 minutes per model on Pokemon and, like, optimize this and that, and it's like, you're not a game developer. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Shut up.
Also, like, not for anything, but and I've said this a million times, and you know what? I don't care. I will scream it a million more times on this podcast. When you say that Pokemon Sword and Shield was polarizing, and it's like, it wasn't polarizing when it first came out. The first time you booted up that game and played some battles and got your team and beat a couple gyms and, like, really got a feel for how the game played, you loved it. Why? On your 300th hour of playing it, are you now like, oh, this game is actually not as good? You liked it the minute you touched it.
Are you talking to me?
I'm royal you know?
Okay,
like,
I was about to say, like, I've always liked Sword and Shield.
You liked it the second you touched it. You liked Endgame the second you, like, the first time you watched it.
Talking about Avengers.
Stop going back and, like, picking it apart and being like, oh, actually, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And then you're talking about how it's actually not as good of a movie. I get going back and, you know, like, with a clearer head that's not in such a hype frenzy and being like, oh, okay, so this is actually, oh, I noticed this detail and this detail and this detail.
You're done honeymooning.
Like, but, like, overall, if you liked it, I think just let yourself like it. Don't say that because you found problems with it, it's now bad. It's not bad. And I hate, like, hearing people poo-pooing a thing that was universally loved 3 months ago because you watched it 40 times and now you've decided that it's bad now.
I'm sick of it after spending literally 100 hours on it.
Yeah, after seeing the special effects makeup on Old Cat for the 400th time now, I've decided that is actually the worst costume of all time, and it ruins the entire movie for me. So Endgame, terrible movie, 0 out of 10. I rescind my positive review of it. It's like, okay, I don't believe you. I think you're just trying to get internet street cred there, mate.
I think you're a baby.
I think you're just being a baby.
Well, that happened. I found that happened a lot with Animal Crossing, actually, where it's like, don't get me wrong. I have explained many times and extensively my criticisms of the new Animal Crossing, and I like to think that I'm being fair. But what I hate is that people had the audacity to come out and be like, this game lacks content, and it's like, well, how long have you played it? Well, I played 400 hours. It's like, yeah, I get bored of Breath of the fucking Wild after 400 hours too, moron.
Yeah.
Like, you clearly got your money's worth.
You have milked it for all it is worth.
You've clearly got your money's worth. And now you're just supposed to do your routine, dude. But make a new fence. Tear something down.
I was going to say,
make
tear
it again.
something down and, like, build something new. Come up with a new design idea.
You know? And, I will admit, there are some things that could be a little bit better. But at the same time, come on.
Come on.
Come on. There's been like 9 monthly updates. Yeah. Like that game has a ton of content now. And like, yeah, my problems with it are like a bit more fundamental of the game. And like, that's why I'm probably not really going to go back to it until they add some really substantial updates. But if you're into Animal Crossing as like a game where you create aesthetics and you decorate and you build and that's all you want, like that game is perfect.
Yeah. But like, I know people who are just into that kind of thing. Like I know people who love like Stardew Valley and what was the other one, Harvest Moon, and
those are huge.
Like, like just simulator games, Cooking Mama, you know, people who love those kinds of games love and still play Animal Crossing because it fits what they want to do.
Yeah,
I get it. Like people who love being given things to do by characters in games love the first like 100 or so hours of Animal Crossing if you're playing it like a normal human being. Obviously, it came out at peak quarantine and everybody just had time to sit on their asses and just rip through Animal Crossing and do it to death for like 400, 500
I almost got 400 hours out of that bitch.
I get it. But like, you know, the average person in like pre-COVID times like gets bored of Animal Crossing after like 100, 200 hours because you get all the things, you 5-star your island, and then you're just good to go.
You're supposed to live now, yeah.
And now you're supposed to live, and they drop it after a while, and that happens. But there are people like hardcore fans who will play that game until the next Animal Crossing game comes out.
And yeah, I think that's great.
You know, like
I'm just not one of them, frankly.
They love tearing shit down and redesigning their island, and they have a million designs in their head that are genius, and they can sit in the design creator alone for like 50 hours.
Oh, decorating my house
come up with designs, like draw designs.
Oh, I see what you mean.
There are people who
the custom shirt maker.
Shirt maker. Yeah, exactly. And just come and they come up with these beautiful, like realistic looking like floor designs, you know, like the path maker doesn't have the design that they wanted, so they make it in the shirt making software. And it's like beautiful and it looks 3D and it's great. They the people who recreated like the like cat hissing like Real Housewives meme, can like sit and do that. I have like a Dave Chappelle as Prince design.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Someone drew. Yeah. Like people can sit and do that for just hours, and they just like come up with ideas, and like that fuels them. And then before you know it, they have like 1,000 hours on this game. That is what Animal Crossing is for.
Totally.
So when dude bros who like 100% and got all 99 Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild are like, "Oh, it's boring after so many hours," it's like, it's not for you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like you did everything, you got what you wanted out of it, but like now it's not for you anymore.
Oh yeah.
It's not a bad game. It's just not for you anymore.
It's not designed for what I want. Like I could totally echo that. Where it's like, in my opinion, for me as a gamer, I can't believe I said that. For me as someone who likes to play video games, Animal Crossing for me would benefit from being more goal oriented.
Yeah.
But
some people love just meandering around.
But that's fine.
It's a type of gamer. You know how we took that course for like 2 weeks and we learned about the different types of gamers? There are explorers, completionists,
trolls, blah blah blah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we get it.
The meanderer is like a type of gamer, and Animal Crossing is perfect for people like that.
People
and
like
that's a demographic.
Yeah. People like loading into a game and living in a little world that's cute and pastel, and you talk to your neighbors, and they all like you.
And they all eat little sandwiches and sit on the ground and tell you how much they love the little bugs that they talk to in the floorboards, and it's just like, it's perfect, and they live off of that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's just the type of game that you're playing. You're not playing the type of game that you're playing. That's like, you know what? I could sit here and shit on Uncharted and how many waves of enemies that you have to battle. It's like, I'm really invested in this story, but I keep having to shoot wave after wave after wave of enemies. Where are all these enemies in the jungle coming from? I don't get it. But someone would be like, Sam, it's a first person shooter. You want to shoot things. And I'm like, I'm tired of shooting things. And then you know what people will say? Well, then don't play first person shooters. Don't play simulators if you don't enjoy what's being simulated.
Totally. Just to let you know, Uncharted is a third-person shooter.
Third-person shooter. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I know that you, like, if I didn't correct you, we'd get to a point where you'd say that in front of someone, and then they would correct you.
You're right.
And then you'd be like, you let me sit.
You're right.
You know, so I just thought I'd say.
You're right. Thank you, Cam. I always switch it up. Sorry, third-person shooter. Whatever.
But your point stands. You're absolutely right.
Shooting waves of enemies over and over again. And I'm like, I was really invested in the next part of the story, but now I have to shoot people again. And then everyone's looking at you like, then why are you playing shooter games? Period.
Right. Yeah.
Same thing goes for people who are mad at Animal Crossing. Same people who will get pissed off at Nancy Drew games whenever I show it to them and they're like, it's not moving fast enough. And I'm like, well, you're supposed to explore a little bit.
Whenever I
it's
see
for
people
like me who love going to every single nook and cranny and just being like, okay, I know that this is probably nothing, but like just to be sure. And then you get an Easter egg and you're like, it was rewarding me for my like weird, exhaustive behavior.
That's why Breath of the Wild is so good, in my opinion. I know a lot of people's opinion of that game tends to waver. I think Breath of the Wild is a fucking masterpiece. It won Game of the Year when it came out. Yeah. Like, it's a fucking great.
Very few people would fight you on that.
I think you're all wrong.
It does have massive crossover appeal, so like very few people would fight you on Breath of the Wild.
You know, like it's also just fun as hell.
Yeah.
You still get people who stream Breath of the Wild exclusively, and all they do is just fucking run around the world and fuck around because that's how well made that game is. Do I think it could use some tightening and the plot could have been a little bit better? Sure, but you can't seriously look at Breath of the Wild and think it's a bad game. No. You know, I forget where I was going with that. Breath of the Wild.
We were talking about like types of games. And
right, but I was going off what you just said because you're like a nook and cranny type gamer.
Yeah.
Like you would like Breath of the Wild because Breath of the Wild rewards you for all of the exploration you do. Breath of the Wild is like, oh, that's a cool looking mountain. I wonder what's at the top. Yeah. And you get to the top and maybe there's an enemy you haven't seen before. Right. Or maybe there's a shrine for you to do. Or maybe there's a rock and you go, oh, I guess that's nothing. But then you move the rock and a Korok pops out. And you're like, oh, this was a reward for just fucking around. Yeah. You know, and I think that's
I will never forgive Her
beautiful.
Interactive in a funny way for that stupid Easter egg in Labyrinth of Lies where you just have to click on a tree 50 times.
No, that's right, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you're rewarding bad bitch behavior for this one, Her Interactive. Like you just click, 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 perfect Easter egg. What an asshole.
That's funny.
I love that shit. I love that shit though.
No, I love Easter eggs in games. Actually, it's funny. I've been playing the Halo games, as I mentioned last podcast. I'm on Halo 3 now.
Cool. You're just blitzing through them.
Oh, they're short and I like them. Yeah. So Halos have these findable things you can find called skulls.
Yeah.
Now, when you find a skull in a Halo game, it adds a modifier to the game. Like it changes the way the game works.
Okay.
There's a skull called Blind that makes you can't see what gun you have.
Okay.
There's a skull called Grunt Birthday Party, which is when you shoot the grunts, a bunch of confetti comes out their heads and it goes yay.
That's funny.
You know, so there's incentive to find these skulls because they're fun to find.
Yeah.
And in Halo 3, the Halo game that I played the most, I know where most of them are. So I was having so much fun playing these games, just being like, I wonder if I like still know how to do this, and being like, boop, 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 and getting to this area that's like out of the way, and like finding the skull and being like, cool, I found it. Yeah. There's this one skull in Halo 3 called I Would Have Been Your Daddy. Which changes dialogue between characters.
Yeah.
And the way you have to do it, at the end of the game, there's these big Halo rings in these holograms. In a row of like 4. I say there's 4 of them for argument's sake.
Yeah.
You need to jump through them in a extremely specific order.
Oh, love it.
And then only will you unlock the I Would Have Been Your Daddy skull. Now,
specificity.
Me and Duncan, when we were teenagers, figured this out with like a walkthrough.
Yeah.
Because obviously.
Because I don't have time for that shit.
But who the fuck figured that out?
I know.
Who was the first person to be like, I wonder if I jump through the first one 2 times, and then the fourth one 3 times.
I know.
And then the 2 middle ones back to back.
What fucking maniac.
Like, how?
I know.
That must have been leaked by a developer or something. Be like, this is how you do it. Did you hear about what they did with the Spider-Man
buffoonery. Remastered? Probably. Why?
Okay.
What is it?
Sorry.
Tell me, and maybe I'll remember.
It's just that was a weird way to reply. In the first Spider-Man game for the PS4, if you break a boundary and go out into the ocean, you can get on a boat, like those little boats on the sea.
Yeah.
And if you obviously the devs never thought you'd get out there.
Yeah.
So all the people on the boats are these like N64 polygonal monsters. But in the remaster, if you go out to the boat...
I mean, that's just Staten Island for you.
There's a little... Okay. Sam loves New York, if you couldn't have guessed. If you in the remaster, if you go out to one of the boats, there's a little sticky note on the chest of one of the polygonal monsters that just says, "Did you miss us?"
Aww,
in a winky face.
That's cute.
That's cool, though, right?
Yeah, I love
they could have patched it out and made, like, real models, but instead they did that because it's funnier.
I've been trying to get on the Staten Island ferry in my Spider-Man game for, like, so long, but you can't. No, it's not on the map.
Well, it's boundary.
Staten Island's not on the map.
It's outside the boundary.
It's just Manhattan.
No, they're not going to fucking animate Staten Island. You kidding me?
I kind of wish they would.
They would add too many bugs. But all right, Sam. I think the sun's getting real low.
All right, big guy.
Well, If you enjoyed this podcast, you can also find us on everywhere you find podcasts.
We don't just talk about games. You can listen to our other podcast episodes.
Yeah, we talk about, it's literally whatever we want, which is funny because we also do a show called Whatever We Want.
Yeah.
On YouTube, which if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. If you're watching us on a platform that has reviews, please leave us a review. It helps us chart. Yeah. That would help so much.
That would be really nice.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you can talk to us directly with our Twitch streams, which you can follow us at twitch.tv/chillspot. And
usually about 2-3 times a week. So
typically 2-3 times a week.
Join in on the fun.
Join in on the Discord. You can chat to us there. We have a great little community growing. And guys, the Chill Spot podcast uploads on YouTube every Tuesday at 3 p.m., not 4 p.m. Like I said at the start of the podcast, it's staying at 3 p.m. I'm saying it right now. Yeah. It's in stone. It's not changing.
We're okay with that.
A little bit earlier on streaming services, typically.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Love each other.
Bye.
Bye.